Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time we're focusing on one source, a personal account of working with Sean Hannity.
Oh, wow.
Way back in the early 2000s. You can get kind of behind-the-scenes look at talk radio, as Hannity was really starting to make a name for himself. Plus, we'll uncover what it was really like to be on the receiving end of that famous on-air persona.
You know, I think this is one of the sources that you sent me that was just so captivating because it's so raw, right? It's not like some kind of, like polished biography or carefully crafted interview.
Yeah.
It's like somebody's like lived experience just full of those little details and observations you just wouldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah, it's like the front row seat to history in the making.
Right.
So let's set the stage. Our narrator is a seasoned radio pro landing a new gig at WABC in New York City in the year 2000.
Okay.
And they walk in feeling confident, ready to take on the Big Apple.
Yeah.
But their very first day throws them a curveball.
Oh.
From the start.
Yeah.
We see this push and pull between the narrator's expectations and then the reality of working with a personality like Sean Hannity. So imagine this. It's day one,
Okay.
and our narrator is at the controls during Hannity's show.
Oh, wow.
They think they nailed the timing for a commercial break, but Hannity throws him a curveball.
Yeah.
He has this segment with specific intro music that deviates from the usual format.
Okay.
So it's a small thing, but it highlights how Hannity has such meticulous control over every aspect of his show, down to the second.
The second, yeah.
And he doesn't let that mistake slide.
Oh, no.
Hannity uses his live on-air platform to call out the narrator. And not just for the timing flub, but he throws in a jab about them being a lazy liberal from LA land.
Oh, my gosh. Do you think he was playing to his audience?
You know, it's really fascinating because he could have just addressed, like, the mistake.
Right.
Like, hey, you messed that up. But he chose to add that extra layer of commentary.
Right. So it's 2000, end of the Clinton era, and that lazy liberal jab probably resonated differently with listeners than it would today.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it speaks volumes about Hannity's evolving style and how he uses humor or perhaps mockery to drive his point home.
It was a pointed barb.
Yeah.
Okay, so then there's the nickname he coins for our narrator, Clinton.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
In the year 2000.
Talk about a loaded nickname.
Right. I mean, that wasn't just a random choice.
Bro.
It instantly connected the narrator to the outgoing Democratic president, like it or not. It makes you wonder, how did that impact how their interactions played out from that point forward?
Yeah, you wonder if it kind of colored everything.
Yeah.
So to make matters even more interesting, the program director, Phil Boyce, actually has to step in and tell Hannity to cool it.
Wow.
It's like even behind the scenes, people recognized Hannity's strong personality and knew when to rein him in.
So that kind of intervention suggests that there was an awareness even back then of the power Hannity wielded and the need to manage it.
Yeah.
So it just adds another layer of complexity to understanding his on-air and off-air persona.
But that Clinton nickname sticks.
Of course.
And our story shifts gears. The narrator ends up as Hannity's on-site producer for the Democratic National Convention in Los Angeles.
Oh, what an experience.
Imagine being immersed in the energy of the DNC.
Yeah.
Protests, debates, all that excitement, while simultaneously managing Hannity's show.
Right.
I mean, it must have been just a whirlwind.
Yeah.
And in a moment, that feels straight out of a movie.
Okay.
The narrator manages to get a copy of Bill Clinton's speech before it's even delivered.
What?
They called her mom and read her excerpts.
I love that detail.
I know.
It just makes them seem so much more real. Like suddenly they're not just a nameless, faceless voice. You know, they're a person with a family. Someone who clearly loves their work and gets a thrill out of sharing those insider moments.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder about all the other people working behind the scenes during these major media events.
It reminds us that there are human stories behind every headline.
Yeah.
Speaking of human stories.
Okay.
Our narrator's world collides with Hannity's in an unexpected way.
Oh.
When they bring some UCLA classmates to his studio.
What could go wrong?
Right. So you've got these students.
Yeah.
Likely with their own diverse viewpoints.
Right.
Walking right into the lion's den.
Literally.
Hannity's known for his strong opinions.
Yeah.
And he certainly doesn't shy away from expressing them.
No, he does not.
And boy, does he let them have it.
Oh, my.
He goes on a tear about David Horowitz,
Oh, wow.
making it crystal clear he's not going to play nice with anyone on the left.
Yeah.
Can you imagine witnessing that with your classmates?
It's like a clash of worlds, right? The narrator's personal life,
Yeah.
represented by their friends,
Right.
meets the reality of Hannity's on-air persona.
Yeah.
And it just underscores that even back then, Hannity was willing to use his platform to express his views, even if it made others uncomfortable.
Yeah. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The narrator mentions a photo taken on Ellis Island with the Twin Towers in the background just a year before 9/11.
Oh, my God.
That image takes on a whole new meaning,
Chilling.
knowing what we know now.
It is, yeah, it speaks to the power of hindsight and how our perspectives are shaped by events. So the narrator becomes a witness to a specific time and place, a moment in history that would soon be forever altered.
Even after the show ends,
Okay.
Hannity keeps up that tough guy persona, making sure his views are known.
Right.
It's like he's always performing,
Yeah.
even when the cameras are off.
Right.
Does that make you wonder if we ever really see the real person behind the public face?
That's a question worth pondering, especially with someone like Hannity who has built a career on expressing strong opinions. Where does the persona end and where does the person begin?
It's a blurry line.
Yeah.
So much to unpack here.
Yeah. So we left off with our narrator heading to KABC in Los Angeles.
Right.
A homecoming for them,
Yeah.
and maybe, just maybe, a turning point in their relationship with Sean Hannity.
And it seems like at KABC, we see this shift.
Okay.
Remember that initial tension, almost adversarial vibe
Yeah.
from their first meeting at WABC? It seems like they both have matured professionally, especially the narrator.
Yeah.
They've established themselves in the LA radio scene,
Right.
and there's a sense of redemption in the air.
Yeah, you can almost feel the tables turning a bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the narrator isn't that wide-eyed newcomer anymore.
Yeah.
They're in familiar territory,
Yeah,
back on their home turf.
exactly. And when Hannity says, "See ya, Clinton," as they part ways this time, it doesn't have that same sting, does it?
It's almost like he's acknowledging the narrator's growth, their resilience. You know, it's less of a taunt and more, well, almost like a nickname you'd use with someone you respect, even if you disagree with them.
Years go by, and we find our narrator working as a traffic reporter.
Okay.
And wouldn't you know it, fate throws them right back into Hannity's orbit for an unexpected helicopter ride.
Oh, wow.
Now, this encounter is particularly fascinating
Okay, why?
because it takes Hannity out of his element. He's not the one in control,
Right.
not behind the mic. He's a guest on KABC, relying on the narrator,
Wow.
of all people,
Yeah.
to get him where he needs to go.
Oh, that's great.
And the narrator notices a side of Hannity we haven't seen before.
Okay.
He's tense fidgeting, almost appearing vulnerable.
Oh.
A far cry from that booming, confident voice we're used to.
Right.
What do they say? What specific details do they point out?
Okay, so they noticed that he was constantly checking his watch,
Okay.
drumming his fingers, avoiding eye contact. He seemed preoccupied and far less self-assured than his public persona would suggest.
Those little details really paint a picture.
They do.
It makes you realize that even someone like Sean Hannity, who thrives in the spotlight, can feel the pressure, the weight of expectations.
It humanizes him in a way we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
You know, he's not just this like larger-than-life media figure anymore.
Yeah.
He's just a guy dealing with the same anxieties and insecurities as the rest of us.
And for the narrator, this helicopter ride becomes a moment of clarity.
Okay.
They see Hannity not as this ideological opponent,
Right.
or even as a celebrity, but simply as just a person.
Wow. That's a powerful realization.
Yeah.
It speaks to the idea that we often project our assumptions onto public figures, right? We forget that they have lives and experiences outside of what we see on TV or hear on the radio.
And this final encounter really highlights the evolution of their relationship.
Okay.
They started as strangers, navigated a sometimes tense professional relationship, and ultimately reached a point of mutual recognition, of seeing each other's humanity.
It's a subtle but profound arc. It makes you think about how our perceptions of people, particularly those in the public eye, can change over time. And it makes you wonder if those public personas ever truly fade away, even in private moments.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into this account of working with Sean Hannity, what stands out to you the most? What are your takeaways about Hannity, both his public persona and the glimpses we get of him as a person?
Well, I think the contrast is really what strikes me. We see Hannity, the fierce, opinionated broadcaster who thrives on confrontation.
Right.
But then we get these moments of vulnerability, especially during that helicopter ride, where he seems stripped of his usual confidence.
Yeah.
It just suggests that even the most outspoken individuals have complexities we may not see on the surface.
And it raises the question, how much of what we see from public figures is performance?
Right.
A carefully crafted image.
Yeah.
And how much of it is genuine? I mean, let's face it, that tough guy persona,
Yeah.
that willingness to go head-to-head with anyone is part of what drew people to Hannity, even if they disagreed with his views.
Right. And it speaks to a larger trend in the media landscape at the time. The early 2000s, opinion-driven media was gaining traction. And personalities like Hannity were able to cultivate a loyal following by taking strong stances and not shying away from controversy. It was a shift from the more traditional news format, and it really had a profound impact on how we consume and interpret information.
Absolutely. It was the start of something new, and Hannity was right there at the forefront. But let's not forget the narrator's perspective.
Right.
It's clear that their view of Hannity evolved throughout the story. It started with that clash, that Clinton nickname, and eventually led to a point of mutual recognition.
Right.
A sense that they were both just people navigating a complex world.
And I think their evolving perspective is a reminder that our perceptions of people, especially those in the public eye, can be fluid.
Yeah.
They are shaped by our own experiences, biases, and how we choose to interpret information. It's a reminder to stay open to new insights and be willing to challenge our own preconceived notions.
So as we conclude this deep dive, here's a final thought for you to ponder.
Okay.
Do you think people in the public eye are always performing? Or are there moments where their genuine selves shine through? And how much does someone's public persona color our perception of them, even in personal interactions?
Those are great questions to consider, especially in today's world, where the lines between public and private are increasingly blurred.
Right.
Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between, a delicate balance between the image we project and the person we truly are.
It certainly gives you a lot to think about.
It does.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back soon with more fascinating stories and insightful discussions.
That's good.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those brains buzzing.